Good morning, my dear friends. It's the 26th of July 2014. Not when you're watching this, obviously, because I've now got a 1.5 year tailback or logjam of videos, which is probably set to get bigger since I've got interesting things to do and film ahead, and not that much time for turning them into finished products and then uploading them. If I had a real proper, what I would call a holiday, then I might get that done. But I mean, holidays now, effectively, I'm on holiday, just so that you can see. It's really me, and I'm really in the UK. But nevertheless, today, as you can see, I've got an empty car. And the reason why I've got an empty car, and the reason why I'm in the UK, well, it's not the reason why I'm in the UK, but being in the UK, the reason why I've got an empty car is that I have to go to get my passport. Not mine, I did that just 1 year ago, so that'll be good for 10 years now, 9 more from here. But this is my kid Sophie, that you all know and love, and she's got to get her passport done. Of course, they only give 5 years for children's passports, and so I had to go and do it 5 years ago, and of course it doesn't seem like 5 years ago. It seemed like about 3 years ago, because 3 years ago we were doing a lot of admin in England as well, with her attempt at joining the UK education system, which didn't quite work out. But basically, oh, look at that, it's a panga. I don't eat panga, by the way, for reasons I've gone into before. If you want to discuss it, by all means, talk to me, or talk in the comments or whatever. But basically, I kind of missed the boat, because not literally, because we came by the tunnel, but I only noticed when we were leaving that she actually was at the end of those 5 years. They only give you 5 years for kiddie passport, and I've got to do the whole thing again. So in order to get her back out of the country, I got to actually get that new passport while she's here, and then, which 5 years ago wasn't a problem to get it done in a day. So I call the place, and they go, "Oh, kiddie protection laws. They've been, upped a lot because of all the." I suppose it's all because of lots of people in the BBC have been exposed as kiddie fiddlers, and therefore I've got to wait a week rather than 1 day to have my child's passport done. Well, thank you, Jimmy Savile. You really fixed that one for me, didn't you? And Rolf Harris, I can tell what it is now. But basically, thanks to these, the ongoing paranoia about paedophilia in England. I mean, either England's just a nation of paedophiles, or certainly, or is very enlightened about the problem of paedophilia, which is also in other countries. I know that there's other countries as well that have had tremendous problems, much bigger than the UK, but were less enlightened about it. I don't want to obviously criticise to a degree. I don't want to criticise people having their a correct emotional response to children who suffer from these, people that have these urges towards them and can't control themselves. Obviously the reaction to that is understandable, but on the other hand, if you take these things too far, it becomes like the anti-terrorism in the end. The reaction is such that it becomes almost like another way in which you lose your liberties. Now, I don't have the liberty to have the child's passport replaced in a day, and this is somehow supposed to be for her protection. Well, what are they going to do in that period of more than a day that they can't do in a day? Please explain it to me. Whatever they need to do has to take more than 1 day these days. I'm not against child protection, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be responsible here for lots of trafficking and things. I just don't understand why these things now, with the level of technology we have, When 5 years ago they could be done in a day, what extra protection has my child now got, and why does it take more than 1 day? That's the question that goes through my mind. Anyway, the other thing was the first available what do you call it, appointment, because you have to go and have an appointment. You have to turn up physically to get a passport, which they want you to have in the first place. And if it's down to me, the guy actually on the phone giving me the appointment said, well, because I started to, obviously polite, I was very polite to him, he was a nice guy. He had a very strong Northern Irish accent, and I like Northern Irish people, but he had a really strong accent, and if I hadn't had Northern Irish friends at university, I think hearing him over the phone at 8 o'clock in the morning when he called me back, I would have been absolutely lost, because he really had a strong one. Even my mother was having difficulty understanding. She's been in the UK the whole time, listening to various UK accents, but she had difficulty working out what he was saying. So and he was saying to me, like, no, I'm sorry, Mr. James, but the first appointment that I can give you in the London passport office is actually 31st of July. So well, I've got a tunnel ticket, which is true, it's in there. I'll show you if you don't believe me. To take me back on the morning of the 31st of July, I've got to be at the tunnel at 10:50. That doesn't leave time to go and collect passports or do passports. So then he's kind of flummoxed. He says, "Hang on a second, let me get a map out. I need to know where these other places are." And I said, "Isn't there Peterborough?" And he says, "Oh yeah, Peterborough. Is that near you?" So he says, I don't blame it. I don't know where Carrickfergus is. And if you asked me to draw the outlines of County Antrim on a map of Ulster that hadn't got the counties written on, I'd be hopelessly lost as well. So there we go. But it's just funny, isn't it, really? You'd think that, I'm not saying that every Northern Irish person needs to know the intricacies of English geography, but if that's you answering the phone doing that service, but at least he had the map, I suppose, which was fair enough. And he did make a real effort, that Mark. So if that's you, then yeah, actually I liked him. And he was saying, because I started to point out the fact that all of these things had changed. He was telling me lots of things that had changed, and I said, well, how come the guidance hasn't changed? This isn't in the guidance that you get from every post office, mass-produced very nicely, by the way, and available in every post office, doesn't contain this guidance. He says, well, what you're saying is very correct, but it's, if it was down to me, the passport office would be very different. Well, Mark, if it was down to me, there wouldn't, I'm sorry to say this, but you'd be out of a job, not because you don't, I think you're good at what you do, but I just don't think there should be passports and passport offices. I think we're human beings and should be allowed to move around as we like, without people necessarily controlling us. I think there should be various cards and what have you. They should be voluntary and not actually stop you from moving around, certainly not around Europe, if it's supposed to be freedom of movement. Freedom is not needing to do give up the day that I'm doing today and go to Peterborough. He says he's got an appointment available on Saturday morning, because as you can tell from the calendar, 26th of July is indeed a Saturday. Get up at the crack of dawn, it's just for your information, 7:33 at the moment, and go to something which is, I don't know how far away, about 80 miles away, I suppose, from my house. Do this piece of administration, which also involved quite sizable travel, to get a counter-signatory, because all the people that I know that could be counter-signatories, well, they don't actually live in Hemel Hempstead anymore, so we had to go for a bit of a trek to find the person to be counter-signatory. So so that was also a cross-country trek last night. It was very nice. I got some apple and mango juice at a person's house, and very nice strolls down memory lanes and things, which is all very nice. But still, why should
leave highway in 3 kilometers?
I'd be forced to do it? I'd be nicer to have seen that person under unconstrained circumstances. So never mind. hopefully I get the passport back in a week. There's no guarantee, but you know, unexplained the circumstances. Hopefully I come across a human being today. Right, A421. That's interesting, isn't it? Junction 13, A421. Now, my mother said don't go this way. Oh, I was going to talk about the M1 first. This was the M1 the whole time. It's the first motorway of its kind in the world. It's still going strong. Still goes all the way up to Yorkshire, to Leeds or something, from London. It's been worked on again and again, but basically these 3 lanes are the same as they were in the middle of the 1950s when it was put to use first of all, as really the first modern motorway with 3 lanes and everything. There had been things like Hitler Autobahn, but they weren't the same as this, and
Leave highway
I,
in 1 kilometer.
I used to travel on those, on some of the old unchanged Hitler Autobahn in Poland, around Wrocław, where they were still pretty much in the state that Hitler designed them, made out of concrete blocks. Really not so great to travel down, but he managed to get his panzers working pretty quickly down the down the road on these motorways that he built. But they weren't anything. Oh, Silverstone. People probably heard of that. They weren't the same as these modern motorways with asphalt and 3 lanes here, 4 of course, but that's a different matter. Right. How am I supposed to do it?
190 meters, enter roundabout. Take 4th exit.
I'm not sure about this, because I know there's been another. You see, my mother said don't go down the Bedford Road. Got to just be a little bit careful, because I want to pick the new one, because I know that there's a new road, and she's talking about the old road, and it's a single carriageway. You can also see this on Google thingamajigs, but I think I've got to
exit.
Yeah, I think you don't take 4th exit. I think you take this exit, which it's telling me not to do. Yeah, I think this is new, and it's also too new for my machine. But Google Maps showed it, and if I was using my phone instead of this rather 10-year-old piece of kit to do it, then I would know what I'm up to. It's not showing this roundabout at all ahead of me, so it's obviously the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, nothing from that period features on this. But because I've done the homework, if not, you see, if I was just relying on this, I'll be going on a very slow road. But as it is, I'm using now. Well, I'm going to take the slower lane anyway, because I'm filming. So you see the M1 going off there. This is the A421, a dual carriageway, looking with this concrete thing in the middle, just like it does on the Google Streetwalker, as I call it. I think it's got another name as far as Google's concerned, but I just call it what I like. This yellow, sexless object, or human-like humanoid that prances about on the Google Maps and accompanies you as you look at the various collections of photographs and things that there are from the Google cars. I saw some tourists in Moscow recently saying, "Oh look, the Google car," and they were saying, "Oh look," and it came round again and photographed me again. I thought, no. In Moscow they have a special parking scheme.
Where possible.
You can use your mobile phone, an app on your phone, to pay for your parking. You don't have to go to a machine. You do it all via the app.
4 kilometers.
And the app tells the central thingy who's paid for parking. And the camera goes around and reads. The car goes around, with a cam and automatically reading all of the cars' registration plates using optical character recognition, sends them back to the head office, and they know who's parking, and they will find out if that person who's parking has paid for their parking. If they haven't paid, then the car comes around again, takes a few more incriminatory shots, and then that person gets a letter with the fine in it. So basically, it's all very high tech in Moscow. Well, it's a city of, well, between 12 and 15 million people, depending on how you cut it. So you'd expect it to have some investment in technology, and the Russians aren't, despite what seems to be going on in the Western media at the moment. The Russians are not stupid. So, that's what they've got. The tourists that don't have anything like that are going, I just saw the Google car. Yeah, oh, okay. Google car is rather different. It's also very high up. It's not just a normal car with a camera on the top. So you can tell that just from the angle of the shots and the way how much higher it is than other cars around when you look at the Google Street Walker. But anyway, what there should really be is an actual street walker with a camera on her head that can go up all the nooks and crannies, taking these shots from a walker's perspective. Because I often want to go for a walk, and I want to know if there's a cut through between buildings in various places, and it's often not possible to find that information on Google. Sometimes you look down, you look at the satellite image, you think, is that a wall there or not, and it doesn't show up. Then you get there and it's just fenced off. So I think that Google could actually do more for people walking. Another thing that I think about the Google Maps.
Drive 5.1 kilometers.
You're just pretending you don't even know this road. But basically, the other thing they should be doing is they should be keeping a historical archive of the way these things looked in the past, and if they can get hold of things which show how that particular spot looked in the past with some kind of certain accuracy. They should also have the ability to turn back, a dial, a historic dial like the time machine, and the streetwalker then can show you what the thing looked like at different times in the past. Yeah, but you're looking at if you're actually in an area. If there are past images for that area, then the knob should appear on your screen, like a time dial, where you can actually showing you points in time on a dial where these other images relate to that are from the past. You could then go back and see how different they were. I mean, that's very interesting. Maybe other people don't find these things as interesting as I do, but one of the reasons why I like to film and then come back later on to see the same films that I did maybe, and I've already been filming now. Well, I was filming, but not properly. Even back in Moscow 12 years ago, a little bit. Made my first foray into filming, but those never went up because they were on this funny little tape system that I could never really convert into proper films. Even my weddings on something like that. Maybe I should take all of them and find them and take them all in to get them digitally redone and turned into proper files that everybody can watch in this system now that we seem to have settled on. The handful of files that all of the graphics packages use that YouTube is happy to use. I mean, they seem to do the job. There aren't really, I'm sure that there's new ones coming along all the time, but in the main, even what I'm doing now on this tiny camera that costs £60 is of the quality that 1970s television was on. You paid a TV license to watch something that had less quality than what I'm able to produce on a £60 camera. So, it's we're all beneficiaries of advancements in technology. That's really why I don't mind.
Prepare to enter roundabout in 800 meters.
There isn't going to be a roundabout in 800 meters. Sorry, I actually do like to invest in technology, although people might deny that since I've got such a cranky old thing, but I just like its idiosyncrasies of this thing. I just like it. That's why I like to be accompanied by it. But I have to, at the same time, have other things other than this.
Second exit.
It's straight because it's actually showing me the roundabout that's underneath me and not showing the road that I'm on.
Second exit.
But it actually, the reason why is that I like to see
1 kilometer.
how much progress we've made and we're still making, because sometimes I get the impression that we've stopped building anything, that all the stuff is old, and that now we've lost the ability to do anything new.
Prepare to enter roundabout in 800 meters.
This was
you are over the speed limit.
No, I'm not. This was an idea that first came into my head around the time of the Millennium Projects, because I was expecting really big and exciting Millennium Projects, and we got this stupid dome,
300 meters. Enter
fireworks that
Take
didn't,
second exit.
firework display that didn't work,
In 100 meters. Enter roundabout.
And a
Take second exit.
bridge, a footbridge that was all wobbly and had to be redone. So all of those 3 Millennium Projects in London, the big ones, were kind of complete failures. And it just made me think, well, hang on a second. This was roughly the time as well, shortly afterwards, when Concorde, that had been made when I was at school, a little schoolboy in short pants, got taken, done in, and whereas, all through my childhood, I was thinking, well, supersonic flight, we've already got supersonic flight. When I'm in my 40s or 30s, oh, that's a long way. When we get past the year 2000, that was, and Blue Peter dig up their box in the garden, and it all looks like old-fashioned. Yeah, we'll all be, doing remarkable things. Well, in a sense, we are, because of the internet doing remarkable things. The internet's given us more than we could really, well, some of the things we could imagine. But it's given us, made reality things that maybe we were only really dreaming about when I was a little boy, and put it in everybody's hands. And certainly this filming, this navigation, or this is things that, I would have only, if people had told me about it when I was a boy, I'd have got very excited, but I thought, I can't wait. And here it is, now this is compensated for by the fact you can't do supersonic flight. Well, now they're talking about there being new supersonic planes. So they are actually going to try and bring back some supersonic planes, but that's now still at prototype stage or even project stage, where you can actually have these really fast planes again. Obviously there has been a lot of space technology done recently. We've got back to sending probes out into past the solar system, or out into past Pluto and everything, which wasn't when I was a child. But they're not manned, whereas I think we probably were hoping that we'd be zipping around the universe in manned craft, much faster than we can do. I think we're imagining as well that we'd be hovering around over the roads in like discs, yeah, rather than in cars, which for all the world look very similar. They're different in style. They're superior in materials and electronics, of course. They're basically computers on wheels. They're very snazzy in comparison with some of the cars. I mean, if you think of a Chevy Impala from 1967, that's what my daughter's dream car seems to be, Sophie's. She says, I want to get one, whatever it takes, I'm going to get myself a Chevy Impala 67. So, right then, if that's what you want, but it's going to cost you a fortune. It's going to cost you a lot in parts if you actually want to drive around in it. But you see, they had a certain style then that kids these days seem to find appealing. Of course, when I was a child, those cars, well, when I looked at that, I thought, yes, I know this. Because, of course, growing up, you would see them. That would be the sort of car you would see. Maybe not so many Chevy Impalas in the UK as you would see things like Ford Cortinas back in those days. My first car was an Opel Ascona. You don't see many of those on the road these days. But it was a German build. The UK ones that were built pretty much the same were called Vauxhall Cavalier. So if you wanted to take it to a garage and get it sorted, you take it to the Vauxhall garage and they say, oh yes, this is a Cavalier, this is called Opel Ascona. So, but that was my first car, and it seemed to go quite well, but I think it was about 7 years old when I had to ditch it. I'd had it for 3 of those 7 years. I think I bought it when there was about 50,000 miles on the clock, and put another 50,000 on in the course of those 3, or was it 4 years, something like that. So, but it was where I did my first lot of driving around the UK, and I took it to Ireland one time as well. That was quite interesting. So that was, and I took it abroad a couple of times. To the continent of Europe, as if Ireland wasn't abroad enough. So yeah. Whoa, that's a long talk. 26 minutes. So yeah, Peterborough's already marked.
Roundabout in 800 meters.
I talked about the motorways. So that M1 was like the first motorway. The Germans had got motorways, but not of that kind. And it was really the motorway war early on was between us and Germany. Of course, America started building its freeways and making some splendid roads as well at the time, and building huge, great big routes across the United States, often through deserts and things. But clearly, in many cases, they didn't need to be anything more than what we've got here. An A road counts pretty much as the freeway. It's just an A road. It's not even a motorway, but it's already got a dual carriageway. And in Germany, you know, there are parts of Germany where an autobahn also only had 2 lanes. They've pretty much redone them as 3-laners across Germany. But a Hitler autobahn wasn't any broader or had more lanes than this. So they were not doing this in Germany until after we were doing it in the UK. So, but then of course, there was a time when the German motorways became legendary. I also like the Belgian motorways, but of course Belgium's only a small country, so you don't have quite as much as of them in the end. But they're all lit up, so that the lights come on at night in Belgium. I think I've shown you how that works before. How they're red at first and then become yellow. Yeah, and it's interesting to see how the French, of course, have got a whole network of motorways, but then they charge you. They have toll roads everywhere, whereas Britain and Germany, the old 2 originators of the idea of motorways as far as Europe's concerned, don't have toll roads for cars anyway. There's tolls in German roads for lorries, but as far as tolls are concerned, you get the occasional toll bridge in Britain, slowing everybody down. Like when we came here, it was the Dartford crossing, slowed everybody down. We gave a toll back of 7 kilometres just so that they could collect money. Well, they'd already collected more than that of my worth of my life, and then they wanted money on top. It's like adding insult to injury, really. They should really think about that. But that's a nice sky, isn't it, up there? Mackerelish, but not entirely mackerelish. But yeah, there seems to be no end to the patterns you can get in the sky, and the way that the sun rays come down off it. You can sometimes catch that very nicely on a camera. Sometimes when you look at a camera on some of the cameras that even you have in mobile phones, you take a photo of the sky like that, and then later actually you see details when you look at the image that even your eye didn't quite catch. So amazing beauty that's given out there free for everybody to look at every day. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. Those were the main topics that were going through my head. Thank you for the old accompaniment as always. What else might I have wanted to say? Yeah, just that today's going to be a day of going to get the passport. I don't know how long that'll take, but if it's just a quick in out, as they say in the Clockwork Orange, it will be possible to go to London later with Sophie, and then there'll be a little bit more to do, so I better not talk too long on this, otherwise I'll be delaying myself with reloading the battery, which is already halfway down, unfortunately. So I'll stop now, and maybe we'll talk later on for more of the 26th of July. Maybe we'll have a bit more of the 26th of July on a film other than just this journey. Maybe I'll also give you an update on the way back, if I remember, as to how it went.